I think what was tough was not being able to talk to anyone because I don't think anyone understood what I was experiencing. So if I'd say I'm not feeling, and I didn't know myself initially how to describe it. I've just all of these terms of I knew what I was feeling, but I don't think I was able to communicate entirely what I was feeling. Like I knew I had this pittish feeling in my stomach. I knew that I'd be scared to wake up. I didn't want to wake up. I wanted to always, uh, I found sleep. I found comfort in sleep because I felt like that was my escape. And like waking up was a struggle. I didn't enjoy. And in fact, I think that's something I'm still scared of. I don't like the sound of an alarm. Um, so yeah, I think waking up was tough because I didn't want to face a day. Every day I had to wake up because I had to wake up to something. I didn't enjoy that feeling of um, waking up to an alarm and then going to work. I think I had to do it. I was working every day, and there were days when, I mean, of course, I think every day was a challenge to sort of I didn't know how the day was going to pan out for me. I didn't know if uh, I think I'd be extremely conscious of being surrounded by people because if I needed to break down, I didn't know where I could do that. And so I think I was always conscious of where I was going to be, although that was not in my control because I think in my profession, I'm expected to be at different places at different times, and no 2 days are the same. There's no pattern to any day. So I think there was always that fear of wondering where I'm going to be. What if I have that feeling of low? What if I need to break down? And not knowing where to sort of have that moment to myself. And I was also, I think, conscious of people seeing it on my face. So it was a lot of effort, I think, to show like everything was okay because it was not. And I think to keep smiling or to keep giving energy to people around me to kind of overcompensate to show that everything was okay or that I was feeling okay, I think was extremely exhausting. Before, of course, before it happened, in the time that I was suffering or struggling, I wish that I had come across that one person who said, I think I know what it is. And it probably would have just made the whole process much, much easier. So I felt like if I then shared my story with people, it would probably help a lot of people who till today are not aware of what they know they're not feeling their best or not feeling correct or feeling low or feeling unwell or whatever you want to call it. But I think it was important for me to break that down and to say, 1 second, this is what are you experiencing what I'm experiencing? Because this is what I went through. And I think that's what I wanted, because like I said, I think for me, the minute I understood the term depression, it just made it so much easier to deal with.
So let me start by asking you, when did you know that you were depressed? When did you start calling it depressed? And why did you, this fantastical woman on our screens, decide to go public with something so personal?
I think it started with just a feeling. It started with just a feeling of not being completely there, of feeling like, like we spoke about that pittish feeling in your stomach where, and just breaking down for no reason, and truly just feeling completely lost and not understanding what was happening to me. I lived with it for a while actually. I was filming a movie at that time, and I had no idea what I was going through, and I'd go to work every day. I'd literally have to pull myself out of bed and go to work. And my mother just happened to visit me, completely different context. And the day she was leaving, I remember breaking down, and I was extremely surprised actually today when I think back at how aware she was of what I was going through. And the first thing she did was to call a family friend, and Anna Chandy, who's a counselor. But today when I think back, and of course I was hesitant at that point because I wasn't aware of what I was going through. And at the same time, for me, Anna is someone who's also a family friend. So I think that's where I sought comfort. But at the same time, I don't know if I would have done the same thing if I didn't have, sort of that comfort level. But it was my mother who really sort of identified the symptoms and immediately called her up. And in one phone conversation with Anna, she sort of understood what I was going through. But at the same time, I think it's the way she dealt with me and with the situation at that point. She didn't raise any alarms. She made me feel like it was completely normal and okay, and that we will get through this. And then, of course, with her and Dr. Shyam Bhatt, who have worked on me. But I think at one point I was just extremely exhausted. I couldn't do it anymore, and I think that's when I decided to I said, okay, let me start medication. Let me accept this help that people are willing to give me. Today there's a lot more awareness. I don't think I can say that I'm completely over it, but it's always a fear at the back of my mind that I might always have a relapse because it's been such a bad experience for me. I could break down if I felt like, and if I had questions or thoughts in my head, I wouldn't hesitate to ask. But at the same time, if I was in front of the media or at an event, which happened many, many times, that's when I'd feel a bit suffocated because I didn't want to break down in public. And this is before I made up my mind to go public with what I was dealing with. Today, if that happens to me, if I ever go back to that space, and I hope I don't think I'd think twice about exposing the way I feel. And I think a large part of one's road to recovery is to accept what you're going through, and to not challenge it, but to embrace it. And to actually allow your body and your mind to go through that experience and know that there is a road ahead that will get you out of all of this. And it's not an individual, I don't think I could have done it on my own. I think it's very important to have that support system. So while people credit me for coming out and speaking out, I think it's equally important for caregivers to acknowledge, and for us to acknowledge that it's important for them to be with us on this journey.
Why is Deepika depressed? She has everything. She has money. She's fame. She has talent. She's going places. She's depression is treated as a indulgence. Like only people who have no real problems are depressed. So when you came out in that conversation and millions of people saw it online, on television, read about it, were you worried that the people were going to be horribly mean? And were some people horribly mean?
No. I don't think anyone was mean, but I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about the repercussions. I think
you didn't have a moment of how will this impact my public image?
No, not at all. I think for me, the idea really was to just change the way people in India and in the world look at mental illness and, give it the respect that it needs. I think the idea really was to just change the conversation, because I had experienced like literally a pre and post. And I lived with it for a couple of months without sharing it with anyone, and then today I feel so much lighter and so much better when I've come out and I've spoken about my journey. And I know a lot of other people who do. There's not a single day where I've probably not met someone who has come up to me and said thank you for sharing the story. But what's also helped them is the fact that they've then shared their story with someone saying, I know what Deepika's been through because I'm going through the exact same thing, and they instantly feel a lot lighter.
What was the toughest thing about that phase of your life?
The phase itself. The phase itself. I think before the intervention, I think before I understood, before my mother saw it, before anyone else saw it, to have to wake up every morning, to drag myself to work, to put on this face like everything's okay, when deep down inside I had no reason why I was where I was and what I was doing. And life just says, it felt like there was no purpose. I didn't feel like it made absolutely no sense. Just life made no sense. So for me, I think that was the toughest part.
And Murli, that can be staggeringly lonely. The thing about depression is this kind of chicken and egg thing, right? You're already feeling like shit inside. You're feeling what Deepika calls that pit in your stomach. And then you feel like if you share it, she was, I think, in a way lucky because she had this really supportive family. She had this broader support structure in terms of a family friend who was a trained counselor,
Yeah.
Shyam Bhatt, a wonderful doctor. But most people are embarrassed about being depressed. Most of us are just plain embarrassed because we think we'll be judged.
That's right.
Even though 36% of this country, according to the World Health Organization, is depressed.
Yep. So it's very well said. And first of all, I commend you on coming out. I think it's a transforming moment in India in terms of mental health and the attitudes, and we need more champions like you. And I can't imagine a better champion than you. So
Thank you.
I want to point a few things about statistics that you alluded to. Depression and mental disorders are now the leading cause of disability in the world. And they are soon going to become the number 2 cause of death in the next 10 years or so. In India, something like 150 million people have mental disorders, and especially amongst youth. The average age of depression in India is 30. Women are twice as likely to have it as men. And amongst youth, which is sort of defined as people under the age of 25, I think in the previous session, Karan said that roughly half of India's population is under the age of 25, and our country depends on them for all of the accomplishments it's going to make. There is one suicide every hour in that age bracket, making India maybe one of the leading suicide countries.
It is the highest number of suicides
age bracket.
Between 18 and 29.
That's right. And all of the symptoms that Deepika described are classic symptoms of depression. There is an enormous treatment gap. It takes on average between 1 to 2 years for the average person with mental illness to even be sort of recognized that they have the symptoms to seek help. And we have something like a 10 to 30-fold shortage of mental health professionals in this country. So even if somebody recognizes that they need help, it's very hard for someone living in the rural areas or someone who's poor coming from sort of the marginalized sections of society to find the right care and treatment. Depression is the greatest stigma of the 21st century. There's 2 elements of that stigma. The stigma of depression is unlike the stigma of any other physical illness. One is there's a self-stigma.
Yeah.
You yourself feel bad and you think it's a weakness. And that sort of almost spreads to others around you, your family and your friends, and they don't want to talk about it, and they kind of hide the problem until they get burnt out themselves, and then you're forced to seek help. So it's a twofold, and depression affects the core of who we are as human beings, our emotions, or just our personality, our cognition, all of that, and that's, I think, explains why the stigma has been so great. And I think things like what Deepika's foundation is doing, education, is really the core of overcoming stigma.